All right, you guys, it is another Monday, which means a brand new episode. So welcome to The Flip Side, a GYTO podcast where we break down, share, and challenge flip perspectives and insights on different hot topics in education. We are so excited for today's episode. We have some of our good friends back in the studio. Loreal and Stephanie are back with us today, and we are talking. I am very excited about today's episode. You have no idea. We are heading to the Teachers Lounge and talking about whether the Teachers Lounge unifies or divides. So we cannot wait to talk to Loreal and Stephanie for this episode today.
I don't even know.
I wish they could have been. My face was so red on that intro because I have been oh gosh, I'm losing an eyelash. Hold on.
That could be a centipede. If you know, you know.
You don't know about the centipede.
That was a literal centipede. Oh my God, dear. If you've listened before, you know.
Okay, but I wish I could have been in here the 5 minutes before the intro.
Yeah.
Because we were just sitting here. They were getting everything.
It's dumb, is what it was.
Finalized.
It was
for recording.
laughing to herself, thinking something's funny, and us just
And I am the only one that enjoyed
understand it.
You and Chase
I
next
think it's
door.
because-
I know it's a trend. I have seen it on social media.
I could hear Chase laughing through the door, and when I hear that kind of laugh from Chase, I know it's good.
He just wants to keep his job, probably.
Nobody appreciates TikTok like I do, though. Are those chicken nuggets in your seat?
They are. They're for something later.
Oh,
Yeah. Chicken nuggies.
but
What is happening right
got
now?
up and I saw chicken nuggets.
He
in
is
there, but
literally sitting on chicken nuggets.
Now sitting.
I hope nobody has to eat those. But and nobody appreciates TikTok like I do. So I made the guys do the trend of where you blow out all of the air and then you try to scream.
That's right. And y'all are,
Why does nobody find this funny except for me?
because y'all are terrible. No one can.
Okay, let's go round two. All right, Chris, you got to blow all the air out and then you got to try.
I feel like this footage could be used against me. I understand the task. There's just not.
You got a lot of hot air, so I might need to talk for 5 minutes before yours is ever actually
3, 2, 1, go.
go.
Good breathing out. Yeah.
Okay, it's got to get all gone. Like where you feel like you're
Don't pass out
suffocating.
though. That was pretty good. I don't see why that's funny.
Why does nobody find this funny? I have
Like everyone's gonna sound the same. Like
maybe my joy just comes from very.
All right, your turn, Hope. Let's see.
Okay, here
All
we
right,
go.
breathe it out. Let them hear it.
I can do it.
Let's see it.
do what?
I can scream.
Let's see.
You sound like somebody. Literally
Anyway.
like a frog that's sick. Okay, anyways, here we go. I'm gonna try.
Wow. There it is. Uh-huh. Don't pass out.
I'm so confused right now.
Almost there. You sounded
You think
exactly
you sound
like
good?
Same level.
I think it's in your head.
Same
I sound
level.
like it had an actual scream instead of you were
No.
just like
No, you sound like
We have Adam's apple. So it's gonna
frog.
sound
You're like
it's
Princess
fine.
Tiana has been strangled in her frog version, and you're
Okay, go.
dying.
So preface this. I'm asthmatic.
Yeah. Do you have your inhaler?
I used it for the last one, but yes, I do know where it is.
If he goes into oxygen arrest, we'll give him some chicken.
That is not how asthma works. But anyway, for asthmatics, it's more exhaling is harder. And so everything closes up. You can't inhale, all the things. So I probably have more practice with this than both of you do on my everyday. So we'll see. Here we go.
We'll see if Chase laughs. If he laughs, it's a good one.
It means it's not good. You want it to be good. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Just dead silence as people are driving to school right now.
Okay.
Ah!
Okay, it's the phase. If you're listening and not watching, please just go to YouTube when you get home and watch the video of that.
I think we also need to put the footage from the first ones. That was the best.
If we can get some behind the
Let me
scenes
ask you
on
this.
social.
What, like,
That could
the
be-
point?
That's a solid brain break for the classroom for you teachers
Do
because
not.
it is so fun.
Oh my
no,
so
we
funny.
do not do that. Those kids will pass that and do not do that. What I'm asking is,
Dang.
where'd you see
Give me a
this?
break.
And when you see it on social media, what happens?
That's it. I have seen a video of someone doing it, and their friends laugh, but I guess I'm not the friend who laughs.
Does things come out?
No.
Can they scream or no?
Just like, it sounds like you're
Sounds like
out of
we
breath
just did.
screaming. Yeah, I don't understand.
It's hilarious.
It makes no sense because you shouldn't be able to scream if you don't have any.
Well, you know what?
air in
On the
your
flip
lungs.
side, I think it's hysterical.
I'm glad you and
gonna
Chase
keep watching
I'll be a
that.
negative Nancy about it. I'm intrigued with a chicken nugget.
Whatever.
These are for later. That was my intro, but we were all so good. I mean, it was a good one.
Okay, well, we'll save it. You'll
We'll
have to come
save
back
that
for
one.
another
I'll talk to you about the
So-
chicken nugget.
Just see what it
I'll
is.
move it away from my
Because you
booty.
sat on those, so please.
Well, not-
Yeah, Bob.
I'll
No,
have to
they're
do
so
that.
good. There's some macaroni and cheese in here too.
Are you bringing your lunch just said, or what's going
I'm
on?
so confused.
It's our son's lunch, and I stole it.
Anyway, we are so excited in today's episode. Like Hope said, Loreal and Stephanie are back, and we're going into the Teacher's Lounge. So without further ado, let's get into it.
L'Oreal, Stephanie, welcome back to the Flipside Podcast. We are so excited to have you guys back for another episode today. If they have not watched your previous episode, all about classroom aesthetics, too much or too little, they should go back and check that out. But we're going to let you give another brief just introduction of who you are in case this is their first time tuning in, just to get to know a little bit more about you guys.
And before they do, I am dying that, first of all, I guess I didn't get the color memo because everyone, if you're watching live, is in these bright pastel, like Easter vibes, and I'm in
Yeah,
just,
we
like,
are.
a dark green.
I didn't. I changed first, so
Didn't get the memo, but
No.
from the last episode when L'Oreal and Stephanie were on the couch, they have switched sides now. So they're like, this is my better side, so I love it. But go ahead, dive in. Welcome back, first of all. Tell everyone who you are.
We are Stephanie and L'Oreal, and you can find us at Happily Ever Elementary on Instagram. Google it. I don't know, TikTok. But basically, our stick, if you know who we are, is we are two art teachers, previously gen ed teachers for kindergarten and first grade, and we are super passionate about helping with classroom environment, classroom decor, and making it accessible for all. So if you check us out, you'll see a lot of tutorials, DIYs, a lot of teacher resources. So we're excited to be here.
I love it. The dream team. And I love for this one, especially, you're the arts teacher, so special teachers. So you kind of get a perspective on the pulse of the entire school building in that role. So I'm really curious to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, and we're not just talking like teacher. I've never really had a teacher's lounge in any of the buildings.
Me either.
Like an actual dedicated teacher's lounge.
Okay.
Interesting. So it's not just teacher's lounge. We're going to kind of use that as like a metaphor for, yes, a teacher's lounge, but also just when teachers are congregating together, whether it's
Right.
classroom,
Okay.
prep time, or in the cafeteria.
We're talking school culture.
Yeah.
Wherever the tea for the school is being spilled. That's what we're talking about.
At the copy machine, wherever.
The water cooler,
Yeah.
if you will.
Exactly. Passing
Mailbox. I think the mailbox was for us. Mailbox in the
That's
cop.
cute. Yeah.
That's a little too close to the front office for me. Essentially,
Not safe.
That's if they know whether they're in there or not. So you can really go hard or you can just.
I guess so. But kind of where this came from is on our last episode, we were talking a lot about kind of like teacher bashing, right?
Yes.
And just because it's different for you doesn't necessarily mean that you have to say something about it or go and tell this teacher, did you see what L'Oreal and Stephanie did? I saw on their Instagram story that they were at school till 9 o'clock. That is so ridiculous. How does that make us look like all the things you're like laughing because I know that happens all the time. I got a comment once. Someone said, Rocker School is a thing we do every single year about teachers just kind of all together going in for something big for their students, right? And I was shouting at a principal who was like, oh my gosh, does this change your school culture? My teachers were staying late tonight. They were really just creating this experience for their kids by their choice, right? They chose like, we're going to go all in. They're like, I cannot believe that Chris promoted staying after. I'm like, oh my word. Like, they chose to do that. No one was that, but it's just kind of doing what works for you and not being in everyone else's business is kind of where the conversation starts for this.
Yeah. So I know you guys have been in a lot of different environments and different workspaces, but I'm just going to open it up with what do you typically find in the schools that you have worked in? Because you don't have to, we're not trying to call out any specific school,
Right.
but just in general, we're looking at trends in education. So what do you typically find when teachers congregate together? Are those conversations typically productive? So as far as, again, making progress, growing the school, growing the students, but even if they're productive, are they, well, I guess you can't be productive if you're dividing, but are those conversations unifying a collective group to really, again, one mission, one vision, or do those conversations tend to be more divisive?
Oh, that's really hard. And as specialists and really chatty girlies ourselves, we get into a lot of conversation. Every time someone drops our kids off to art, we're like, hey, so really quick,
And we get to know everything.
And we get to do that 6 times a day. So 6 times I pick up and drop off. I'm like, so anyways. And
then, of course, whoever's not at school, the other one's like immediately filling it at home.
You will not believe what this teacher has said.
Yes.
We try really hard because we are positive people and we do love our jobs and we do love teaching and we do love the space to keep it positive. But we have found in the recent years, and we touched on this last podcast, that there's this negative bubble that's forming around teaching. And we know that venting can be therapeutic, but you really have to find your venting partner. We are each other's venting partners. So when we are going to say something that's maybe something unkind or not unkind, but just getting something off of our chest.
And we know when we're being petty, we're self-aware. When we're like, I know I'm just emotional and so it's bothering me now. I understand like objectively like how this might look if I had some more perspective, but you do need a safe place just to like get it.
Yes, but you need to be so careful who you're talking to, what you're saying when there's children around, because in a school is not necessarily the place to be talking about other kids, about other parents, about other families when you don't know the full picture. And it is really hard. I do feel like teachers can be drama. They love drama.
And here's what I will say, I think is a common theme at our school. And this is a really big benefit of getting to open your school is like a lot of us are like, we say OGs. We've been there for 6 years. So a lot of that culture we took part in like creating because we've been there since day one, like concrete laid. It's in our neighborhood. Like we were right there walking our kids past in strollers. So we have like this buy-in from the like initial, like the start of it. We didn't walk in and say like, oh, where do I fit? We got to kind of create it. So that's like a privilege that we have. Mind you, not everyone has been there since day one. But I think what's been established is like, if you're going to have something negative to say specifically about instruction or how things are going amongst like a team or something new that the school is maybe implementing, come with like a solution for what you're not liking. Or if you have criticism, try and have that perspective to say like, well, okay, if this isn't what's working, what could work? Instead of just being prepared to like bash and be negative and stay in that place, like how can we bring it up here so that we're happy with it? And I think that's like an expectation in our schools. It's like, don't go to admin, don't go to your team unless you have already kind of like thought it through. It's not just a place to come.
And that's easy to say, but I love that you're saying it right now. But I hope our listeners and people who are watching, like you really like, that's an easy thing to do. That's so simplistic in your mindset of saying, I may not like this, this may be whatever, but if I'm going to say something, I've got to have some type of solution or at least offer something up. And you said your whole school is in that mindset?
I don't think our whole school, but I think like what we've kind of, and mind you, we actually are supposed to get a new principal. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But we've had the same principal since day one as well. And I think for her, she kind of set that tone.
Did she say that? Does she say that? Because we've worked for people who have said that before. Like if you have a problem, that's fine if you have a problem or an issue, but come up with a solution.
It's more so what we learned works with her.
Got it.
If we go to her and complain, she's going to say, tough luck, girlies. See you later. Love you. Bye. But if we go to her and say, we are really struggling, can we try X, Y, and Z? She likes the problem solving aspect because it takes it off of her plate. I don't want to dump things on her plate and then her be like, well, now I have to fix your problems, my problems, and everyone else's problems. If we have solutions and we give her choices.
If it's that important to complain about, then it's going to be that important to come up with some type of solution too. So if you don't, I get that. Love it.
If you're lost and you're like, I want a solution, but like you said, easier said than done, then I think coming from an honest place, not a negative, like gossipy place and saying like, guys, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm insecure about how this is going. And I would like us to put our heads together. That's where collaboration starts. If there's a need, you guys do your process. Every team does things differently. Our team of specialists is really unique because none of us plan together. Events for sure. But like no one else is being like, hey, I saw this thing for art. We would be like, thank you. Like we'll take it under advisement. But like we all kind of have our own lanes we stay in. We're lucky because we get to plan together. The other specialists are kind of alone. But like you, Loreal said, like I think we get to tap in with a lot of gen ed teachers, which is nice. And sometimes we are able to like be like, oh, we didn't realize you were struggling with that. Have you considered this? Like we are able to still kind of like help teachers and collaborate with teachers just because we all have the same end goal or we want the same objective for our kids.
Yeah. I think that I heard something from you guys. First of all, I think that the majority of the time when teachers are coming together, I think it's too toxic. Like if I'm going to go on a side here, I do think it's too toxic. And I will explain why. It's not because we're having conversations. I love what you said. Well, first of all, I just want to point out that positive people vent. Yeah. And positive people have negative feelings. And we are not going to like everything in a school. And we say things that we're probably like, dang it, I shouldn't have said that. Or I spent too much time thinking about that, or that was immature of me, or if you are sitting there saying, I always see the bright side of everything. No, you don't. No, you don't. That is impossible in this work of education. So I think that you said awareness is such, how many people do we know? And should we even start counting that are unaware?
Oh, it's so hard for us to understand people like that because we're hyper aware and overthinkers.
Yeah. Like, am I the problem? Yes. Start asking yourself that question first of all. Like, you know, I mean,
and we have been the problem, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, you learn from
the
it.
problem. If you're self-aware, then you can say like, okay, how do I bring myself back, or how do I approach my team now if I've made a mistake, or whatever it is. But you're right. There's so many people that have reached out to us in a certain way where we're like, that was kind of like not cool. And I'll talk to her about it. And she's like, no, you're right. I don't think they realize that's how they came across to you.
Absolutely.
Or whatever. And it is hard because sometimes you feel like you're walking on eggshells with teachers because we're all like stress levels probably here.
Yes.
There's so much going on. No one can know your exact experience at this given point. So if you're talking about something, could be triggering something in someone else. It's like, it is tricky, especially because teachers are usually quite emotional in the sense that like they take things personally and they buy in. But I think we're really fortunate because when it comes to, you said toxic, I don't really feel that at all at our school, which again, we do have a different relationship. We opened the school. But I think we really took time with both of our teams, our kindergarten and first grade teams, and now our specialist team to really get to know the people so that when we work with them, we have a way better understanding of like why they are talking to me that way in this moment.
Yeah.
Because we got to know them as humans before we got to know them as teachers.
That is huge. And I think that the concept is, number one, if you were having bad thoughts about something or negative thoughts or whatever you want to classify that thought as, that does not make you a bad person. That makes you human.
Yeah.
And I love too what you said about we have a venting partner within each other. And what I often try to remind myself of is because there just is a lot of toxicity in education right now. In general, in abundance. If you're asking me, it's an overabundance. And I think a lot of it is because I think you have to vent and get it off of your chest. I talked about it in one of the earlier episodes. I have a rebound rate of like 30 seconds. And I think it's because I'm such a good venter. I get exactly how I'm feeling off my chest. I explain it to that person, whoever it is, and then I move on. So I think venting is so incredibly healthy. I think the reason that teachers' lounges or wherever, the classroom, PLCs become so toxic is because in my mind, the way that I perceive things, there is a difference between venting and gossiping.
Okay.
Venting is getting it off of your chest with your close colleague that you trust. Safe. It's a safe space.
Stops there.
It stops
Does
there.
not
You say
continue
it.
down the hallway
That's
after
yes.
to that person.
It stops there. You got it off of your chest and you're like, thank you for just letting me process that. Because to your point, half the times after you say those things, you're like, okay, I was just emotional. Like that. I'm glad I actually didn't say that to anybody else because I would have looked like a dummy. But I think that gossiping, the difference that makes, or the thing that makes it different is gossiping is living there. And that's exactly what you're talking. I'm going to tell Loreal. Then she's going to give me a reaction. That's going to feel,
Well, I mean, gossiping
Stephanie.
is also, I mean, I share this.
I'm
with-
gonna tell
I
Chris,
shared
I'm gonna
this-
tell
this
Wade.
concept with Hope like many years ago. And yes, venting is getting it off your chest. Gossiping is living there. But then gossiping is also, you're most of the time you're talking about somebody in a negative light. And we never want to talk about people in a negative light because we don't know where they're coming from or what's happening or their circumstance. And Hope's always spoken to everyone we come in contact with, doesn't matter if you're in education or not, that you expect the best in everybody and understanding that. And so the venting and gossiping, there's two different things.
Yeah. And
we
so,
got to realize that.
Yeah. And I think that that's where it goes from being productive to it being toxic, or it goes from, it could possibly unify if you were able to share those things and then go into a space where, okay, I'm not emotional as we approach this topic because I've been able to vent, but instead what those tend to turn into is, let me tell everybody my story, then you're going to tell everybody your story. Yeah. And it just keeps this cycle, this
Talking
vicious
about people
cycle of
and
talking
things.
about the issues without exactly what you said, saying, okay, I'm glad that everybody shared how they feel. How are we going to solve this?
A problem solver.
What are we going to do to move on? And I feel like so many people right now in education are wanting to, yes, the system is broken. I don't think anybody disagrees with the fact that the system is broken.
It's always been broken.
But we keep having these conversations about the system is broken, and why the system is broken, and what we hate about the system, and that where are the solutions that we have within our control to start? Because I don't believe that you're going to change the system.
Right.
I think that you should advocate and all the right things, but I don't think that we're going to change the system. I think we have to focus on the people and the control that we have of those people. And so that's where I tend to see that just really light a fire of a toxic space and division Because yes, everybody's sharing how they feel, but we're not leaving there with the plan.
Right.
We're not leaving there with a solution that could change the way that we feel about that.
And I think a lot of that kind of bashing comes from like one of three different areas, right? So one would be about like, most commonly I've seen someone's lesson that I think Loreal said in an earlier episode, either jealousy or maybe not the way you would do it. So you have something to say about that.
Yes.
And that's something for kids in that moment, whether it was too much, too little to your standards. That's what that teacher planned for their students at that time. You don't have those kids. You don't know what they need. You don't know the intent behind it. Yeah. I remember one time we were doing this huge thing with figurative language. When I taught fourth grade and I did a full room transformations, if you follow us, you know that's what we do. It brings us joy, and it's equally about the kids as it is for us of how do we create this experience for them, not for everyone, and never say it would be for everyone. And I remember one teacher, he was spreading around the whole school that for that entire day of teaching fourth grade ELA, that we were watching The Wizard of Oz, the movie. Never once did we even have a clip from The Wizard of Oz. It was literally the theme of the lesson. Everything was with characters and figurative language and going through the text and all these different things, which was a district required text, was a chapter from the book. And that was what was spreading around that, oh, Chris is, okay, how was he teacher of the year last year? They're watching The Wizard of Oz in fourth grade. Not even have, that was about a lesson, right? You didn't even know the standards behind, you didn't know my planning, you didn't know the effort, you didn't even care to ask or look, but that was what kind of was spreading around. So I think one thing is about lessons. Two, and this is kind of my biggest pet peeve when it comes to the teacher's lounge, when other teachers are talking about specific students and something that happened that day, you will not believe what Hope did.
Yeah.
What is that setting the tone for your school, your campus, and when they go through, or when I'm dropping them off at arts or specials, and you're saying, well, this person had this, we're already spreading this kind of toxicity throughout. And the last one, which I know Wade can relate to as well, is I would walk into rooms all the time, either teachers eating lunch or the teacher's lounge there as an administrator.
And then it got quiet.
And everyone's quiet.
Yeah.
Well, great. Everyone was just talking about me. And
or maybe they're not. They're talking about something they shouldn't be. It may not be about you.
Yeah, maybe even not about you.
They're just talking about something they shouldn't. And we know, like the administrator, you know, as soon as it gets super quiet, you're like, duh. Y'all are doing something I ain't supposed
And I saw this from the first side. I don't know why I can say that now. It is a pun that I need to like be like
on the tip
smack on the hand, like slip in my mouth like when you're a kid. But my mom's a great parent. But
I was about to say, albeit.
yeah, okay. That was
You found to get some messages.
But I was fortunate, or not fortunate enough. I think fortunate, but I was a teacher and then a coach and then administrator at the same school. So I worked with these people as a colleague.
Very different.
I actually was an intern at this school at the beginning of my career. So some of the teachers there, I was just a student teacher, fresh out of college. Then returned back to that school as a coach, and now I'm their administrator and direct supervisor. Complete 180 shift.
That's tricky.
Up the other side. I'm like, I know who you were 6 months ago. I know nothing has changed now. But it's kind of that, if you have to stop talking at any point, you probably should have not said that at all kind of mentality.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting what you said, because I guess I hadn't thought of it so like concisely, but you're right. It's always negative.
Yeah.
Like, why are we not like sitting there like, oh my God, did you see the data from, they all mastered that standard? I have to figure out, tell me more. Like, I don't think we've ever walked in a room like that. And it's that honestly, would we be, like you said, like moving the needle when it comes to this broken education system, if that is how conversations are being spread through a campus, as opposed to like, oh, did you see so-and-so's room? They must have had a long weekend or something, you know?
1,000,000%, because these teachers that are also, and again, this is self-awareness, and it's something that I am still working at, because there are still very strong emotions that I have about things. But those teachers are also community members. And the crazy part is, it doesn't even just stop for them in the school.
No.
Then they go and they tell all of the community members, which then passes. I mean, y'all know how communities work.
We know this so well.
We know this so well.
And then I'm like, and we wonder why the narrative about education is so negative. No, it does not start with politicians. I'm sorry. The negative narratives do not start with politicians. They start from inside the school building of people that do not understand, I need my venting partner that is a safe space, but for the best outcomes for this school, that is where it's going to stop for me. It's the people who tell every teacher in the building, then tell every community member who will listen, because they just need, I don't even know what they're seeking, because they don't actually feel better, because they keep telling people.
I want to ask you
And
something.
then it just spreads like wildfire, and then it's like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
But again, to your point, and I'm coming to you, but why are we not celebrating the positives in that?
Yeah, or championing each other.
Talking about amazing teachers. You'll never guess what lesson. Did you see what they did in their classroom? Did you see did you see what the kids are doing? Did you see what this student is doing? Like, those aren't the messages that are being sent.
No, you're right.
Okay, it's locked in, okay? So I'm asking before I forget, because it amplifies this. Literally question for all of you. As you're talking, like, I don't know, and I didn't really experience a lot of the gossiping. I mean, Hope and I have taught together everywhere where we've gone. Mm-hmm. I'm a very isolated person anyway. I'm not an extrovert. Leave me alone. I'm good. I'll do my job, whatever. She had a different experience teaching than I did, obviously. But I think a lot of it too, what we do as educators and teachers is very difficult and it's hard. And we don't get to see adults often.
Yes. Yeah.
We see kids 24/7 and we're harboring it. We're internalizing it. So I don't know. This is a question for you guys. Do you think the gossip is worse or whatever it may be with the educational profession? Then it leaks out obviously in the community, and it's because we don't get to interact. Like, think about you in the classroom. How often do you get to see another teacher teach?
Yeah.
I mean, even with that, like, you don't really get to see adults that often. And when you do, does all of that just come out? I don't know.
This is what it is.
That's what I'm asking.
It's when we finally come up for air, it's us like bashing each other.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Glad we did this.
But what kind of habits does that say about us as a society? That when we interact with adults, the only thing that we can spew out of our mouth is negative, bad, something that's harmful to another person.
It's a mental health
harmful
thing.
It is harmful to a student. Like, what does that say about our daily practices with our own mental health? That we let it bottle up so much that then when we do interact with adults, the only thing we can say is are negative things.
That is very true. I think we crave, like you said, the adult interaction for sure. Half the time we're stay-at-home moms, and we look forward to our work days for that. We get to be around children. We get to create we have a lot of fun. But when we do get to the lunchroom or wherever we do congregate as a team, it is a really reflective thing, because you're right. A lot of the conversations are negative. And I do wonder why and how we can fix that, because it should not be that way. And
I actually have an idea.
Okay, let's go. Let's
solve it. Okay.
Maybe you have one.
I have an idea. You guys can leave in the comments how this goes. I'm always looking for scripts for Harrison. My son is on the autism spectrum, and so for a really long time he was nonverbal. And then once he was able to start imitating and work on his joint attention, then it helped him to give him scripts. And so I think if we are feeling, I always say ugly. My mom would be like, you're acting ugly. Or I would tell her, like, I feel ugly, not looking ugly, but like my feelings I'm aware are not nice feelings. And I've told her that too. I'm like, I know this is like an ugly feeling, but like, this is just how I'm feeling right now. And I don't want to live there, like you said.
Yeah.
So a script that I've been working on with Harrison is, I feel this way. I wish this to change it. So like with his brother, he'll say like, I feel mad. And he'll say, I wish you wouldn't knock things over when I work hard to build them. Or like, I feel this way, I wish this would go different. And then like from there, you maybe have like a foundational conversation starter to then say like, your teammates can start chipping in, versus you just like you said, right off the bat, like being negative, bashing, gossiping. And you can still come from a place of like, I don't like how I'm feeling, because it is negative. Yeah. It's hard. Like you said, our job is hard.
Yeah.
And I think, as you're saying that, I'm thinking teachers are the first, and educators in general, to set these expectations of how you talk to your friends.
Yeah.
Exactly. Along with others. So I can statements in the classroom. And then the second they drop the kids off at specials, they're doing the same thing that someone just did at recess to someone else about
So
other
true.
adults that they really don't even know well. I mean, when you think of it like a school building, you don't know that person very well at all. Because like to Wade's point, you are very isolated in your room. You have your kids. So you may think you know them, but unless you know everything about them outside of school, where they came from, where they taught before this, what they're putting into their lessons, you really don't know these people. Like I'm thinking about past coworkers. I could probably count on one hand ones that I actually feel like I know. Yeah. And that's because I've built relationships with them outside of work, really. I mean, they would not happen in the work there. So I just think it's interesting that you're saying this as your classroom expectations of how to interact with other people, but it's not being followed through professionally.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna lie, that script specifically, I feel, and then I wish, would work with a partner.
Yeah.
would work with your husband, with a man.
Literally.
So
any kind of adult interaction at all. I mean, even with kids, that's
Yeah, I think it is helpful though for people, like you said, to get stuff off their chest, because I know it helps us a ton, and like it's a safe place, so we can rely on that. But I will say, on the flip side, there's some moments that have come from teachers in lounges and at lunch that I have never forgotten in the last 10 years of teaching. Like, I had a teacher my first year is the year I got married. And she told me, I'm going to tell you right now, she's a veteran teacher, so she's been teaching for like 20 plus years. And she told me, you're going to be a good wife some days, you're going to be a good teacher, and eventually you'll be a good mom. There's few days you will be good at all of them on the same day.
Correct.
And I remember like holding on to that so deeply, because I got married and there were days I was like, I'm not being the best wife today, but I'm being a really excellent teacher. And now as a mom, I'm like, okay, today I showed up as a mom and I feel good about it, but I'm like, our classroom is a mess. I'm so sorry. Like, our classroom is a mess, and I just had to shut the door and leave at the end of the day. But I'll never forget that. And that was spoken over like a casual conversation at lunch. And like, she probably didn't think twice about it. For me, as like a 21, 22-year-old like newlywed, I was like, this moment. Like, I was like locked in. Yeah. And so like, there are some things, if your heart is open and it is more positive, like it can be like such a place for us to learn and grow from each other. Yeah. And so like, I think if people can like kind of switch their perspective and not be ready to just like bash on others.
And I know a lot of times, obviously you don't want to talk about work as you're at lunch. I understand that kind of balance. Yeah. This is our off time, things like that. But share, like, create the narrative of something you did over the weekend or something exciting. Or even something you did. I remember as a student teacher going with my supervising teachers to this was a very traditional, like, teacher's lounge. Like, tables here, fourth grade sat with fourth grade, third grade sat with third grade, the special teacher sat here. And just hearing the things that they were doing in their classroom that morning, I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But that was their mentality. That was like the veteran teachers of the building. Like, I did this morning, it worked. They're like, oh, it didn't work that well for me. Let me try. It was a very productive conversation. And I'm not saying it has to be work focused, but give it what's the end result of this? I mean, literally 15, 20 minutes sometimes, if that. Yeah. How can we use this to have some sort of end game from it and not just get this off our chest in this moment? Because there are going to be times to do that, but it's going to be to a specific person. Yes. And I honestly don't even think in a school building is a safe space. Like, even if you have that person, there are people everywhere. There are nosy Nellies around every corner. It's going to get to someone eventually. And I just don't think, especially if it's your administrator and like your supervisor, in a traditional work setting, you would never see someone going around the entire floor of an office building complaining about what the CEO just said to their office. But yet, the principal is the first thing, group text of all the things. I think technology has even enhanced that. Because did you see that email or screenshot of this person sent me that email? And it's like spreading like wildfire. But having that end game of what do I want to take away from this kind of conversation?
Sure. And I think it's about being aware of your deposits. Yeah. Like what you deposit into your environment. And I think that, people who might be like, oh my gosh, well, I wonder, like, if this conversation is, because sometimes, even in my moments of sitting here, I'm like, let me just reflect on who I've been in my environments. For sure. It's, it's a matter of saying, let me see what kind of environment or what I am bringing to the environment. Even getting yourself on your phone or just tracking your deposits as, are they positive or are they negative? Because I think a lot of times we're like, not me, I'm not the problem. When in fact, I am the problem. But if I'm never aware of that, then I'm constantly depositing negative things and harmful things into my environment. And I think that, whatever people are depositing, that's what the environment becomes. And I've been wondering, with working with so many schools now, why, when I walk into most schools, are the teachers and administrators telling me that they need a culture change and that there's low morale? I'll tell you why there's low morale. Right. Yes, education is hard. I am never going to take away from the fact that this is one of the hardest professions. But also then I spend time in the school. And every teacher I talk to, every interaction I see with students, every conversation is focused on negative. And I'm like, no, guys, this is not a systemic issue. This is a personal choice of what we are depositing into the environment that is yielding a poor, low morale or outcome. And these are the things that I'm like, these are the conversations we have to be open about. Oh my gosh, wait, maybe I am depositing negative energy. And maybe my colleagues are too. We have to grasp a hold of that to be able to shift the culture of something in a different direction. And so I think it's being so aware of, again, self-awareness, everyone being challenged to be self-aware. I remember Rock Your School back during maybe it was during the pandemic because we did a virtual Rock Your School conference.
January
January. Y'all are going to have to help me remember this because
2020.
it goes back to, I love what you said about the fact that you have Harrison say, I am feeling, and what was the second part? It was,
I wish this.
I wish this, right? The solution. We did,
2021. Sorry, January.
yeah.
It's February 2021, but just for clarification on our
It was something.
I needed to know. Thank you.
But we actually focused a big part on school culture and climate during that time and teacher morale, because as we know, it was the pits. So we actually created, do y'all remember this? We created
We're
doors.
still bickering back and forth about the date.
You guys need to work on your.
Yeah, let's
know where this
focus.
nose is
There, I can tell Wade's like, I see his wheels spinning.
Yeah, I'm about to
like,
flip
Yeah,
the camera.
kind of forget. All right.
No, because right after we went on a visit to meet someone who we hired right after that, and I remember we hired that person at the end of February.
That was the Rock Your School photo shoot. That wasn't actual Rock Your School.
Yeah.
That
We'll confirm by the end. I have a camera.
Yes, I just want to know.
anyways,
I'm just letting you know we were not paying attention to what you're saying because we were bickering about
we
the date.
focus now.
With
Can
our
we
eyes only, though.
Yeah, we kept going.
We were going,
Not bickering, just trying to figure it out.
yeah, just like
Okay.
showing the flip side of calendars.
Anyways, let's focus on solutions,
yeah.
guys, not the problem.
I'm having deja vu right now.
But we did this activity where we encouraged teachers. We gave them the template, and it was a door hanger. And they had to laminate it.
yes.
You remember this?
Yes.
They had to hang it on their door. And I cannot remember exactly how it worked. I'll have to go back and look. But it was basically like where they had a space to leave that on their door and share how they were feeling.
Oh, love that.
So it said, I am feeling, and it might have even been a circle option, but basically it gave teachers a space to say, I am feeling overwhelmed. I need what they need. I need time and space. Because here's what happens. A lot of times, and this has been, and I've been on both sides of this equation, but sometimes I'm in my room and I'm highly overwhelmed and I have so much to do and somebody wants to come in and vent.
Yes.
It's not that I don't want to hear you.
It's called boundaries.
But
what it was.
right now, I don't have the capacity to be able to give that and serve you in that way. So what I need for you to do for me is just leave me and go find somebody else if that's what you
Keep it moving.
right? Or I am feeling, I don't know, I'm feeling very energized today and I would love to have conversations with my colleagues. So come on in. And I think that is such a big piece of this
Awareness.
is that number one, it's awareness of exactly how you're feeling. Number two, it's recognizing that it's okay to share that. But number three, it's saying, here is what I need to have a different outcome with this feeling, whether I want to continue it or whether I want to try to move away from that feeling. I think that is so powerful. And then what that does through a school building is it makes it okay.
Yeah.
It makes it okay to say that I'm not always in a happy, bubbly mood. Or sometimes I'm very overwhelmed. But here's what I need from my colleagues in this building to support me.
Yeah.
So I think that can be an incredibly powerful move when cultures are created to be, here's what I'm feeling. Here's a need or a solution I have for that.
I can speak personally to that. Sorry.
No, you're good.
During COVID, like you said, it was hard on all teachers. I had also just had my first baby like 3 months before and did not recognize that I had postpartum depression. And as a teacher that was teaching kindergarten for the first time virtually and having to like figure out like my nursing schedule and like all of those new things that I was just learning along with distance learning, I was not even able to then step outside of myself enough because I was so incredibly overwhelmed to realize that I was struggling and I was not being myself and I was focusing on the negative. And those ugly feelings were like constant where I was insecure. I was like looking for someone to blame because I was feeling terrible at the time and just lost and helpless. And a lot of the stuff I didn't even know. Like I didn't know what I didn't know because it was virtual. It was first time. And then as a new mom with a kid with autism that I did not know at the time.
Yeah.
And Loreal, my safe space, was able to say, like, because she's my safe space, when I would vent to her, she let me do it for so long. And then it turned around to be like, but I need you to be accountable for those feelings. So she made me aware, but I trust her enough that like when she's there to hold me accountable, I also trust that and I'm not going to push her away. And she was able to say like, I need you to know that you're living here and it's not a good place for you. It's not good for your team.
Yeah.
The way you're showing up.
Yeah.
And it was really quick that then I was able to seek out medication, counseling, and I wasn't even aware of it because it just had become my new norm during COVID.
Yeah.
And so I think also the awareness, yes, for sure, it's helpful for you to know how you're coming across and to just have perspective.
Yeah.
But also if you're able to be accountable.
That's powerful.
Because when you have
That's
accountability, it's like then you can move forward. I could be aware and still be like, I'm cool with it.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. I'm gonna be depressed with my life, like forever. But instead, it was like her helping me to be also accountable. Then allowed me to show up for myself first.
Yeah.
And then to show up for my baby, to show up for my best friend in our business, to show up for my class and my team.
Yeah.
And luckily, I am an open book, so I was able to tell people like, I'm in it and I'm making changes, but like help me out and let me know. And I think teachers not having that chip on their shoulder and the pride, you don't have to be the best in the building.
That's right.
No, and like the people that I look up to are not the people that I think are the most incredible teachers. It's the people that make me feel safe, comforted, like valued. Those are the people that I look to in the building, not because I think they have like the best pedigree or resume. It's because like I'm like, I know you're a safe place. And like I know as a teacher, we're teammates. Like I can rely on you and you can rely on me.
You're a great person.
Yeah.
You're a good you got good character. And like that's what we need to be for each other more, because like I know that was probably the darkest time of my life, one of them. And I didn't even know it.
No,
I didn't even know it.
There was definitely like she was going through something and I'm on the outside viewing it. But before I approached her, she wanted to quit teaching. And it scared me, but before I came to her and said, like, we can't do this. What are you thinking? I had a solution. I called our district and asked about a shared contract. So before even coming to her, I was like, this is where we're at. This is what we're seeing. How can we do better? Will a shared contract
Would this
help
work?
this?
This is even possible.
Leaving and stepping away from the classroom is not going to solve all your problems.
Yeah.
But it was obviously a turning point in our entire career and friendship and everything.
Me as a mom.
Everything.
Yeah.
But I think the scary thing is teachers can mask so much.
So much.
And although she was going through this and being vulnerable with me, she'd turn on that camera and be like, good morning, boys and girls, and just be her bubbly self. And like, to see her be able to, I mean, and she's got theater background, so she's a great actor.
Visit this.
I'd be like, but see teachers mask so much is scary because a lot of teachers are dealing with hardships every day. Their loss of loved ones, divorces, things that are incredibly scary and incredibly heavy, and they can switch it off and teach an amazing lesson. And it is scary because at some point it's going to boil over. It's going to become a problem. It's going to affect their job, their kids, their colleagues, and you have to be able to recognize that. And I think what you did on the doors was so great because you can say those things and not have to verbally say it, but write it down and feel like, okay, that felt better. Like people at least know, like, I am struggling.
And like you struggle.
Yeah.
And like I personally, like I said, I trust her. I think if other people had come to me, it would have been harder to hear. I'd be like, how do you know?
Yeah.
She knows me. So I'm like, oh, you know, that's rough.
Yeah.
I'm not being myself. But I think what also was a part of it was the fact that like, because I felt so ugly about myself, I would have been the one that would have been gossiping about someone else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm aware
Yeah.
of that. Like it would feel good to tell you like they're struggling too. Did you see what they did wrong? Or did you see how
Screw
much,
them.
you know what I mean? So it's like, if you're not addressing your own personal needs first, then yeah, you are going to be the first one that when you hear gossip to be like, guys, listen to this.
It makes you feel better sometimes, maybe to like
But
reflect.
I mean, man, that's powerful that y'all are able to do that. A lot of people aren't. They
Right.
have
We
that.
realize that, and that's
And I know you realize that.
Yeah.
But it's also just a reminder of, I mean, yeah, you could feel like that, and oh yeah, you can just take it, whatnot. But at some point, people are going to tune you out, and they're going to turn you off, and they'll cut you out. And that can affect, and I've seen it done just recently, like done with everything, opportunities, your livelihood, whatever it may be, because people just don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be self-aware enough and be humble enough to have someone say, listen, get out. But when you're in it, you're in it. And that's all you see. So it's important that you do have those people that are surrounding you and loving you hard. And
But they also hold you accountable.
yeah, that's what I mean. That's what love is.
I mean,
That's what love
but
is.
I think that this is another part of the problem is that I think that people, especially toxic people, are seeking advice
From other
who
toxic.
think just like them from other toxic.
Misery loves company.
Yeah.
Misery loves company.
And so to me, I'm like, you have got to constantly check who your accountability partner is and who you're receiving advice from.
yeah.
So true.
Because if you're looking at their life and you're like, actually, they're kind of miserable and they're not really being successful right now.
And every conversation starts with something negative about something else or something going on. Or another person. I'm like, that is filling your mind
Correct.
with all of that.
So you've got to be so cautious about who you are receiving advice from and who your accountability partner is, because I think that you guys, the reason it works for you is because you don't always just tell each other what you want to hear.
No.
Yes.
And that's why it's such a powerful relationship.
That-
Even though I don't want to hear it, you know, but that's not what you do. And that's what makes you both just number one, amazing people, but number two, incredibly successful because you have somebody to check you and check your character and get you in line and not tell you what you want to hear, but somebody who can see the outcomes for you.
Well, your students are
you
so
can't see 'em.
like I'm sitting here listening to all of you talk, and I'm like, I mean, I know you're Maverick's mom and your Uncle Chris, but even if you weren't, I would love for Maverick to be in your classrooms because you understand that, because that's our kids too.
Yeah.
That's our kids too. And if you recognize about yourself, come on.
Because also think about, to that point, you're in the teacher's lounge, right? You're talking to about this other teacher, a second later you're picking your kids up. That negativity in your mind is now going to somehow, whether you believe it or not.
You're wearing it. You're wearing this nasty
literally
suit.
right into your classroom with your kids,
gross.
and you're thinking about
Get outta here.
that conversation carrying with you, and you're probably cannot wait to tell the next person about that. I was looking while y'all were talking for that door hanger, but I want to look for it because it was a free resource that we had. So I'll share it out once this episode goes live, because I'll find it eventually. I don't know what the date was still, but
It's in my Canvas.
we'll find it. It's somewhere.
It's somewhere.
Did Canva exist?
Nothing PowerPoint.
It
We
did.
made that. It's got to be PowerPoint.
Canva was just starting. I remember.
It was the very beginning, but we'll find it for that. But I think also it goes to what I know my parents, everyone's parents have said. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all, and what that looks like.
Wait.
But
Chase found it.
Oh no. Well, that's the acts of kindness. That's not the door hanger.
it's the same wording, but
But it was the teacher
and if
self
you're listening right now in your
care.
car, we're looking at a screen. That is.
It was the
all
teacher's-
Canva files.
Wait.
Chase is
No,
scrolling down. No.
Just keep driving.
No.
Abide by the speed limit.
No. It was the teacher resources for the virtual conference. It wasn't the Rocker School Starter
If you
Kit.
could find the date,
Yes.
find the flyer date.
No, we could not.
January 2021.
But anyway, maybe it was January. I don't think it was January, but
Are you sure?
The hill we will die on. That's right.
as soon as you stop recording, I'm going to the phone. So
No doubt.
but I think that idea of if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I think it would be very interesting in a school if there was some sort of experiment where you are not allowed to speak unless it's like, and you don't have to say something positive, because there's also the other side. You don't want to be someone that is negative and spewing on this. You also don't want to be around that toxic positivity that's actually genuine.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, everything is great. We're really like, everything's on fire. Like, that's not real. It has to be genuine and authentic. Things like that.
Well, and you also
People
don't want
confuse that.
to diminish someone's experience if they're struggling. You don't want to be like, but you're fine.
Correct. Exactly.
But you'll be okay.
Exactly. Like, or putting on that face. Like with your kids, it's one thing because they're there to learn and you're getting
It's not fair to
experience,
them.
but you don't want that. There's a very big difference in spreading positivity that's genuine and authentic, and just like covering things under the rug just because, well, on the flip side podcast, they said we should be more positive. So I'm going to go around it. If you don't genuinely feel that's not doing anything. But I feel like we would sit in a lot of silence in schools. If you
fair.
didn't say anything nice, I think it would just be literally silent in the halls. No one would probably talk to each other because it would be very difficult to genuinely only focus on that.
But wait,
in a
you're
school.
saying that people would have to think before they spoke.
Correct. Yeah.
On the flip side, Stephanie and I started a few years ago that if we thought something nice about someone, whether it's a stranger in the grocery store, airport, wherever, like, oh, her shoes are cute, say it.
Speak it out. Speak it out.
We compliment people constantly.
And it's genuine.
And it's genuine.
And it's actually, now that you bring it up, they're uncomfortable by it because it's it's almost, it's not the norm, and it's almost alarming. Like, they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
Oh, wow,
But I
thank
will
you.
say, I've been on the flip side and someone has complimented me on a day where I feel terrible. I didn't like my outfit. I felt terrible about the lesson I just had. And they'll say, like, oh my gosh, this art project is so cute. It changes my entire day. Almost to the point where, like, I want to tear up and cry because they don't know that compliment just turned my whole day around. And it was a simple thing that they could have thought and not said to me, but they chose to let it out. And it's like, we need to do more than that. That's a small step we can all take, is that if you think something positive, just say it out loud.
So I think what you're saying is, like, if it comes to teachers coming together, whether it is at lunch, whether it's in the lounge, whether it's at the mailboxes, it's a tool. Yeah. So if it's negative, that's the tool that you're leaning on. That's what you're taking back with you. If it's positive, it's building you up. You're going to go back into your room and feel that way.
I'm a big advocate for therapy, and I love therapy personally and for other people as well. I think it's just such a powerful tool. And I will never forget that my therapist, when I was really, really struggling and I was in a very deep depression, to where physically I couldn't even get out of the bed. My legs I could not even walk hardly. Like, it took everything I had to brush my teeth. And of course, that makes you spiral into everything. Is this going to be my life forever? And then that leads to anxiety. But I will never forget, he said, Hope, you've got to imagine this, that you have two wolves. the wolf of positivity and the wolf of negativity sitting on each shoulder. Whichever one you feed the most with your thoughts, that's what's going to win your day.
It's gonna be the stronger one.
It's going to be the stronger one because you fed it the most. And I'm like, why? This is a concept we need to take into our schools. We have two wolves in our schools, the wolf of positivity and the wolf of negativity. Which one are we feeding the most? And I think to hear you say, if we were to only be able to speak nice things, the school would be silent,
Scary.
sad, and scary place to live.
It is.
So I know that some people are probably listening and they are like, well, what if I'm the only one that takes this mindset back? How do we start shifting a culture? How do we start modeling? I do think that it takes having those courageous conversations with your administration and finding ways in your building that you can start focusing on the positive, that you can start modeling, I'm feeling this way, here is what I need. Not just with teachers, but with students. It will change the dynamics of everything to allow everybody to know in your building, I can feel. Yeah. I can feel in this space. I can feel all the things, but it's also a space of solution-oriented conversations to where either I'm telling you what I need from you or you're telling me what you need from me. And that's how we operate versus just constantly fluttering around talking about all the negative things that's happening with no solutions in mind. And so I think, and unfortunately, not every administration is going to respond to that. But stop using that as an excuse to even try. Yeah. Because so many people are, my administration would never. Have you tried? Yeah. Because if you haven't tried, then you cannot make those kind of.
Yeah.
And if not, there are a million other schools that have a lot of open positions that you can find a place.
You don't have to be stuck anymore.
You'll find that you don't have to be stuck there. And you don't also have to be the one to fix everything. If you're trying these things and you're looking for these pockets of, okay, I know this is not good, but you're continually being fueled with this negativity, or you go in the teacher's lounge, or you
give it a go.
Eat by yourself.
Yeah.
I've been in a lot of schools. We have been in a lot of schools, a lot of classrooms. There are incredible teachers spreading positivity, joy, happy to show up. Is it easy every day? Absolutely not. Yeah. They have their own problems. They have their own things that they go through, the difficulties of education that's never going away, but they choose to push through for the kids and not just spread that gossip throughout.
Rise above.
And that is not every school. I know you may be listening and being like, oh, my school is literally this person, this person, this person. That is not every school. We have been at a ton of schools. And also, I know just from being in school one day, I know the classrooms where I'm not going to talk to that teacher because I know where the conversation is going to be. And I know the other ones where I know it's going to leave me like feeling like my cup is filled.
Correct.
And putting yourself in those positions.
Yeah.
Well, what? Girls, we just love you. So Loreal and Stephanie, everyone, you can follow them on Instagram at Our Happily Elementary. Is that correct?
Happily Ever Elementary.
Happily Ever Elementary.
One day.
Why have I never
It's like
said it?
happily ever after.
Yeah. Sing it. It'll help.
Say it.
Ever
I don't know
Elementary.
why I said our. That wouldn't
I'll
make
just
sense.
contact Jordan Fisher and
Oh my gosh, a jingle.
I should say it again.
Happily Ever Elementary.
Are you sure?
Happily ever.
Because you're confused too. No, just that is it. There is
It sounds like Spanish now. The more we say it, I'm like,
say it doesn't sound right.
right.
That is it. On TikTok, Instagram, all the things. Also, they have a decor line if you're looking for that. Also, if you did not tune into our previous episode with Loreal and Stephanie, it was all about a different vibe, but we kind of got into some of this too, of classroom aesthetic.
Feng shui. We didn't even talk about feng shui.
So make sure
should have.
to check that episode out. We love speaking with you all. We will definitely have you back on the flip side, but thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
If you're listening at home or
there's
watching
the
live,
date, folks.
The date is
February.
It was February.
I'm glad we got closure. Yeah.
Wait, zero. We will see you next Monday on another episode of The Flip Side. But until then, we'll catch you on the
Flip side.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, you can't do it.
You can't really do it.